Hey Paul, how you doing? All right, so looks like you've got written bits, storyboards, and 2 rounds each of wireframes and paper prototypes. I'm wondering why there would be 2 rounds of wireframes and paper prototypes. I've got a few questions to it, so we'll just and I kind of have a feeling that these are pieces, parts used that are going to be used to assemble your final process book, but there's a few questions here as it is. Right now, we've got 5 separate files, right? So I just want to kind of reinforce. You want to make anytime you're tasked with a presentation, you want to make it really as simple as possible for the person looking at the work. That whether it be an instructor, one of your peers, classmates, or in the case of a professional practice, a creative director, art director, or even a client. So typically what I recommend is to create a multi-page presentation. That way we don't have to open and try to keep track of multiple separate files. Okay, so in this case, since part one is the process book and part two is the actual prototype, what we would do is we would um, just submit the process book for both parts one and part two. Because what I'll look at in part two, the prototype, is to make sure everything is in place. What I would look at in the process book is the design itself. Okay, makes sense? All right, so we've got several different files, and I'm just going to open these and kind of comment in general. So this is digital wireframes. Okay, and then this is called Blueprint Plan. So this is your process book, I'm guessing. I think you mentioned something that slide background not stay, be tweaked a bit to fit better with the theme. It was a stock template. Yeah, I do not recommend that at all. We're designers, Paul. We need to design our work, and the ramifications therein are this. Suppose I'm a hiring professional, and suppose you're sitting across my desk and I'm interviewing you for an internship or a design job or a very typical situation, right? And this is a very typical question. I ask it all the time. I would be with designers that I'm interviewing. So my question would be this: we'd be looking at the process book. I'd ask you a few questions. And then I would say something like this: "This is an interesting design. What were you thinking? What's the concept behind your design here? And is this an original design?" And if you say, "Oh, the concept is office and moving parts and blah, et cetera," and then you say, "Well, I didn't design this; it's a template." Okay, boom! All of a sudden, your credibility goes way down. Okay, and I'm not trying to sound discouraging at all, Paul. You know me, right? I'm just trying to give you a really, really very realistic scenario. Okay, so you don't want to use templates in your design work at all. All right, so that said, we've got problem, functions, target audience, personas. Personas look great. Presumably, you're going to fill these with pictures, right? Or some other engagement. By the way, these are all single paragraphs. You don't. Looks like you've got different typeface. That typeface size is different than that typeface size. You want to check that. You don't typically need to. You wouldn't indent these paragraphs because you got a space between. Indent or space between is a way to demarcate paragraphs, but you don't do both. So something like this, you wouldn't indent these at all. You just have that space between. You never indent a first paragraph because it's a first paragraph. So okay, and then we have our storyboards. So the storyboards don't have scenarios attached to them. So basically, each storyboard should depict a persona that you have defined, and then you would also create a scenario in which the storyboard depicts that scenario, right? So my suggestion with your storyboards is to include a scenario. So let's say your storyboards are going to be right. I don't know. Let's say you've got a page that says storyboard, right? And what I would do is I would show your storyboards right there, and then I would write out the scenario right below. And remember, does two-part storyboards work best? Two-part storyboards meaning you've got a first storyboard that shows the scenario of depicting the problem without the app, and then a second part of that storyboard showing the exact same scenario, only this time problem solved with using the app. Okay. Okay, and then these are more wireframes. I'm not sure, are these wireframes or are these actual sketches to be used for testing? And then again, see, I'm just a little confused as to this and this. So not exactly sure, are these your testing screens? Really difficult. And so and don't forget, we need testing results in here. I mean, this is critical. This is testing week. So whatever you do with your testing, be sure to take a look at that course announcement that I put, testing in accordance and maintaining proper CDC protocols with our current situation with COVID-19. So you want to look at that video. We got to get testing here one way or another. One of the suggestions in that video was to test using a classmate and test via email. And that's going to entail a little bit of a work. So we're trying to work around here with our current situation, but we definitely need testing. If you have somebody that lives in your house with you, by all means, use them. But we got to get the testing in here. And a couple of things we need to construct testing sections using your paper prototype, apply your play acting techniques for the mobile test, interaction with your mobile app design, collect data from your testing session and apply that data to the refinement of your ideas, okay? And then write that all up, the summary of your data testing collection and analysis, and then create digital mock-ups of series of screens for your mobile app design. So there's still a lot of work to do this week, Paul. Let me show you that these are digital mock-ups of screens. Okay, so you want to completely, really digitally mock up the screens and show us exactly what they look like. Okay, so again, I'm just over on page 3, project 2, mobile app prototype continue. So this is what is required. So you definitely want to include all that for Sunday's presentation. I'd like to see the current process book up to speed, up to date, ready to roll. Okay, so we still have a little bit of work in front of us here, Paul. And again, you know me, I'm not saying that to be discouraging at all. I'm just kind of giving you the state of the project, as it were. Okay. All right, Paul. Of course, any questions at all, please. I'm right here. I'm doing double time with students trying to work at home and trying to do testing. So I'm in every day, pretty much. Check in several times a day if I'm not directly in the classroom. So if you have any questions at all, please let me know. All right. Thanks, Paul.